welcome to another episode of Wizard Goes Boom. Today I wanted to discuss OSR on a budget, and I'm going to be covering 3 books, which for the most part are under $10. So that way you can get your rules and your campaign for a very reasonable price. The first book I wanted to discuss is called Delving Deeper. It's a retro clone of the 3 Little Brown books from the Brown box in 1974, otherwise known as Original D&D. This one, though, while the original books did not, includes the Thief class. And the way it is written, it's set up to mimic the high Gygaxian prose of Gary Gygax, which it does very well. It contains some new monsters not in the original, like androids, robots, cyborgs. And it also contains some analogs to the Tolkien IP monsters that were included in the 3 original Little Brown books. It has 4 basic classes: fighter, magic user, cleric, thief, and has 4 basic races: human, dwarf, elf, and halfling. The play style is mostly sword and sorcery, but there's room for science fantasy with the inclusion of androids, robots, and cyborgs. This book has everything you need to play. It has sections on character creation, spells, combat, exploration, monsters, treasure, and also strongholds. The PDF itself is free, and I'll post links. And a print copy is only $5 on Lulu. So this one is the cheapest of the bunch. It also has a setting that you can use for it called Blackmash, which is analogous to the Blackmore campaign setting. And the PDF for that is free, and the print copy on DriveThruRPG is $7. The second book I wanted to mention is called Basic Fantasy. It's a retro clone of the Moldvay Basic and Expert sets, but with some updates to the rules. For example, it uses Ascending Armor class and also uses the attack bonus instead of THAC0 or attack matrices. It has 4 basic classes: that's the fighter, magic user, cleric, and thief, and the 4 basic races in a core rulebook, which would be elf, dwarf, halfling, and human. It contains some new monsters, which differs a little bit from the original BX set, like a flesh golem. And the style for it can be used for sword and sorcery, but also a high fantasy style of play. This book also has everything you need, which includes character creation, spells, combat, exploration, monsters, treasure, and strongholds. The PDF is free, and the print copy is about $8 or so on Amazon as a softback. Their website has tons of free extras and source books, and they're all free PDFs. The default setting for it is called Morgan's Fort, and it's analogous to Keep on the Borderlands, which is also a free PDF, but if you want a print copy, that's $10 on Amazon. So that rate there will run you less than $20 for both Basic Fantasy and Morgan's Fort. The final book on the list is called OSRIC, which stands for Old School Reference and Index Compilation. It's a retro clone of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st edition. Out of all these books, it's the most comprehensive rule set with 400 pages. This book contains advanced classes and races like Ranger, Druid, Gnome, and Half-Orc. And you can play it in a sword and sorcery or high fantasy style. And the book is so comprehensive, it has everything you need to play. But it's definitely the most rules heavy. A print copy is about $13 or so. Unlike the other books, the only thing this does not contain are rules for strongholds. It is a pretty faithful recreation of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, but there are some minor rule tweaks here and there. While I didn't find any sort of default setting for OSRIC, there are a set of adventures known as advanced adventures that could be helpful with that. Of the three, Delving Deeper is probably the most rules light, and it comes in a digest size, so it's very easy to carry around with you. The play is pretty simple, and the combat is very fast. It's meant for sandbox gaming, dungeon crawling, and hex crawling. And it's very cheap at only $5. And the PDF, of course, is free. The website for Immersive Inc., the maker of Delving Deeper, also has an HTML website with all the rules, and it's all hyperlinked, so the rules are easy to find. I'll also post a link to that. Basic Fantasy also has a simple play and fast combat. The size of that is letter size, 8.5 by 11. And that's also good for sandbox gaming, dungeon crawling, and hex crawling, but there's also room for pre-made adventures. That's also pretty cheap at $8. Their website is also full of goodies, which contain additional free adventures in PDF format. Also contains an emporium for equipment. It contains all different kinds of adventures, as well as additional classes, additional spells, additional races as well. Also tons of adventures. So I'll post that website in the links below. For OSRIC, it also is very much the same like the others, even though it has advanced classes and races and more comprehensive rule set. The play is still fairly simple. The combat is also still very fast, especially compared to 5th edition D&D. You could do all sorts of gaming styles with it. Sandbox play, dungeon crawling, hex crawling. You could also do pre-made adventures. You could do narrative driven. It's pretty versatile. It has hundreds of monsters, hundreds of spells, hundreds of items of treasure, and it's pretty beefy at 400 pages. It's also digest size, by the way. The classes covered in OSRIC are Assassin, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Illusionist, Magic User, Paladin, Ranger, and Thief. Plus, it also covers a myriad of multi-classing options for demi-humans. Also covers dual classing as well for humans. The races that it covers are Dwarf, Elf, Gnome, Half-Elf, Halfling, Half-Orc, and Human. In terms of alignment, Delving Deeper does law, neutrality, or chaos. In Basic Fantasy, alignment's not really covered, so it doesn't really play much into it. And of course, you have the advanced alignment for OSRIC, which is lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, lawful neutral, lawful evil, chaotic evil, and so on. The 9-dimensional cosmic alignments. So one of the things that what OSRIC clones, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, covers are things like the planes, psionics, bards, the monk class. They do not make an appearance in OSRIC. First edition rules also cover things like building a stronghold. And while OSRIC doesn't cover building a stronghold, it does cover things like managing a stronghold. For example, it has a steward NPC that can manage your stronghold while you're gone. It also covers hirelings as well. So, despite these omissions and differences between first edition and OSRIC, OSRIC is pretty indispensable. Um, Very comprehensive rule set, covers quite a bit. The play for it is not quite as simple as Delving Deeper or Basic Fantasy, but definitely for immersive role playing. The rules cover things like poison and disease, and combat is only slightly more complex than Delving Deeper or Basic Fantasy. Of these books, Delving Deeper is the cheapest, and it's a great book if you want to have something very rules light, and it's a small book, so it'll help you get going very quick. But despite that, it can help you get through a lot of campaign time, run a long-term campaign. Basic Fantasy is a little bit bigger at letter size, but it's also another great resource for running long-term campaigns. You could get started quick. Character creation's very simple. OSRIC, more complex, but also for long-term campaigning. Takes you a little bit longer to get set up than the other two. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. Thank you.